Just a word on the event. It's one of the greatest events out there in the industry.
Why are we all here today? More importantly, why are you here rather than just me being here? And it's because ultimately I'm passionate about this space. I'm passionate about volatility, and ultimately I'd like to feel as though that by the end of today you'll be able to walk away with a little bit of passion, which the 15 other hedge fund managers here share with me. Let me tell you about options. Options is like a big game of chess. You haven't got to think about what your opponent's next move is going to be. You've got to think about what the guy's going to be doing in 7 moves' time. That's why I'm here today, is to demystify the space, to come away from today with a much better understanding of what the volatility guys do than what you currently now know.
There's 19 guys who are here to tell you about the vol market and about products and about strategies, and I'm not going to do any of that. So there's one guy on the agenda to talk about how we're thinking about tail risk hedging and the decision to protect. That is the why of this whole business, and that's my job. There's 2 types of investors. There's people who buy volatility, and there's people who sell volatility. And it's a very religious thing. At this venue a year ago, we came up with the glimmer of a concept. Today, in the last year, vol is now, at our place, is now an asset class. It's part of our approved long-run strategic asset allocation. There's actually an asset class called volatility products. We think we know the volatility of all of our assets. We think we know the beta, because we do these measurements over long, normalized periods. We think we know the correlation between all of our assets. We think that they're linear relationships, right, because we've learned all this in school. And we think we're putting together a portfolio that's got diversification and weights and covariance matrices and W prime, V, W. We can do the calculation of what the, right, we know how to do all that stuff. It's just linear algebra, and Excel is great at doing it. And it gives you, at the end, a risk for your portfolio, which you can look up on a table and find out how often, you know, you're going to lose a certain amount. Right? And then we go out into the real world, and it turns out that all of that is completely, absolutely wrong. In liquid investments, we've got this issue. That's compounded by leverage, and it's compounded again by the existence of fat tails. So if you think that you're set up to deal with a certain amount of illiquidity and a certain amount of leverage, and you're thinking about a 14% standard deviation portfolio, then you're wrong. When you finally get to the event that sort of makes the 30 or 40 or 50% move, basically all bets are off, and so you're just going to end up bearing much, much more risk as you get far deeper and deeper into equity land than you ever thought your investments were going to get into. So at work, you know, I'm the risk guy, and I guess they understand about fat tails, so some of my friends are always telling me that, you know, I've got fat tail problems, and you know, so I'm working on it. What was it one of them said? My tail's so fat I've got an app on my iPhone that beeps when I back up.
I know the discussion is about the uncertainty the politics costs for the market and the volatility for the market. I said, think about it the other way. All the volatility in the market creates all the uncertainty in politics. It's just a matter of one's perspective. If anybody thinks in the Oval Office there's black and white calls, let me tell you something, it's all gray in there.
The argument is that by the time it gets to the president, there's no easy answer.
And Kennedy once said that you've got the choices between bad and worse. Those are it. There was a revolution going on in the financial sector part of the economy, worldwide, led mainly by the United States and England. And our rules of the road did not keep up with that revolution. You couldn't stop the revolution, but it is unhealthy for the markets to have a government that doesn't have a set of standardized rules to stay equal to it.
Spent much of my life dealing with, or in some cases causing, volatility. And so as we look around the world, I think it's important we think about this. There are several factors we need to consider that all give the opportunity for volatility. And the world is connected so much now that what happens in areas isn't containable. So if something occurs in one area, the volatility created can create volatility in other areas. In fact, it's contagious and it moves. And because it moves just when you think you've got stability in one area, that may not exist for long. At the end of the day, everything has value, but you can't value everything equally. You just have to accept some risk.
We prefer the more open approach of saying we have this fabulous technology that can help you manage your tail risks. So why don't we talk together about how we can tailor it to your exact needs? A lot of funds do, especially pensions, have discount rate problems, meaning when the interest rates drop, the present value of their liabilities, of course, go up. In which case, so they have sort of a real rate tail. If real rates drop, as they have here, it's hurt a lot of pensions. And so there, we tend to use the over-the-counter market because it allows us to be more precise.
We don't have any idea where the market's going. We don't have any idea where volatility is going. But we do know that a lot of people think they do. And they drive imbalances in the market, and that creates opportunity for our strategy. Going forward, I think we're going to see a lot of extremes that we've historically believed to be absolute levels tested.
The environment that we're staring down for the next 5 years is going to be ideal for alternatives in general. Any alternative strategy is not really dependent on beta for its return. And I think volatility strategies within that universe are going to do sensationally well.
I think it really shows we're in a new environment. Now, some of this is driven by real, true economic uncertainty. Some of it's also driven by new volatility products.
Or what worked in 2011, what will happen in 2012?
In 2011, I would mention 3 things, then I'm going to add a quick fourth. Number 1 was Japan, fracturing of the markets over there. Second thing I would mention is the commodity area, especially silver, when it had its big move. Third space would be just generally dispersion. Correlation has been an area that obviously everyone's, whether you're a vol manager or just a long-short manager or anyone in the alternative space. And the one I would add is just the steepness of the volatility curve. That steepness is an opportunity in a variety of different ways, and I think will continue to be in 2012.
But all of this central bank liquidity is suppressing volatility in the equity markets and the bond markets. And what comes out of that, what emanates out of that, is there will be less volatility and there will be less tail risk volatility. But like in Africa, you never drink from a pool which is calm, because that's where the crocodiles wait for you.
Skills in forecasting where the next crisis comes from are not very easily found. There are so few of those events that are taking place over time that most of us haven't really been around long enough, frankly, to work out whether we had any skills or whether it was just luck anyway. So I think the answer is very hard to really predict where the next crisis is going to come from. And it's even harder to work out whether somebody's got skill at forecasting where the next crisis is going to come from.
We don't have a balanced volatility market globally right now. There is no equilibrium, which I think, to Will's point, is that we should expect a disequilibrium to continue, and it's compounded by the fact that there's this psychological element. And the psychological element is we've all got post-traumatic investor syndrome from 2008, and everyone lives in this climate of fear.
Hope to see you all at GVS for next year. Thank you.